Dr. Ian Gould, Professor Joanne Wright, Dr. Scott Madry, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to the opening ceremony of the Southern Hemisphere Summer Space Program. This event is taking place on Kaurna land, and on behalf of all here today, we pay our respects to the traditional owners of the land and to their living culture. My name is Michael Davis, and I'm the co-director of the Southern Hemisphere Summer Space Program. I lead the program on behalf of your host, the University of South Australia, and it's my privilege to be the moderator of this ceremony today. The SHSSP, as we call it, is the result of a long-standing partnership between this university and the International Space University, which is headquartered in Strasbourg, France. You'll hear more about ISU today, as well as about the unique history and strength of the relationship between the two universities, which has brought us to this third annual SHSSP. But first, the ISU tradition is that the program participants enter the ceremony carrying their national flag. I'll announce each country represented in the program in alphabetical order, with Australia last. So the first country is Brazil. Please join me in welcoming Brazil. The next country is China. The next country is France. The next country is India. The next country is Korea. The next country is New Zealand. The next country is Nigeria. The next country is Slovenia. The next country is Spain. And finally, Australia. You'll also see the flag of Ethiopia in the room. We have 31 enrolled students with us today. We're expecting another 6 students from China and 1 from Ethiopia within a week or so. unfortunately they couldn't quite make it for the opening ceremony. So we are in total 38 students from 11 countries. I'd now like to invite Professor Joanne Wright, Acting Vice-Chancellor of the University of South Australia, to address us. Professor Wright took up the role of Acting Vice-Chancellor and President of the University in September 2012, following the departure of Professor Peter Hoy and pending the arrival of the university's new Vice-Chancellor, Professor David Lloyd, who begins his tenure later this month. Professor Wright joined UniSA as Deputy Vice-Chancellor and Vice President Academic in 2010 from the University of Sussex, where she was Pro-Vice-Chancellor Education. She's held a number of teaching and research positions in the UK and in Australian universities, and has taught extensively at undergraduate and postgraduate levels. She's also published numerous books and articles on various aspects of state and sub-state security. In 2011, she was appointed a foundation member of the Higher Education Standards Panel. Please welcome the Acting Vice-Chancellor and President of the University of South Australia, Professor Joanne Wright.
Thank you, Michael. It is my pleasure to formally welcome you all to the third Southern Hemisphere Summer Space Programme hosted here at the University of South Australia. And I do hope that you are all very appreciative of the unique experiment that we have put on for you this week in Adelaide, when we will determine whether, in fact, it is possible for humans to survive living on the surface of Venus. Once again, the truly global reach of this event is highlighted by the participant march that you've just seen. We have participants and presenters from 10 countries representing all continents here over the next few weeks. And over the next few weeks, the participants will gain insights and share experiences through a range of lectures, workshops, and presentations. In addition, members of the public who harbour a fascination for space and its boundless possibilities, they can take part in a number of free activities. Undoubtedly, amongst the most exciting of those is Friday's panel discussion at Adelaide's Italian Centre that will bring together 3 trailblazers of space travel. South Korea's first woman of space, Dr. So-Yen Yi, Italian astronaut and photographer Paolo Nespoli, and Adelaide-born and NASA astronaut Dr. Andrew Thomas, who is back here in his hometown and will speak to us very shortly. Now, there is no doubt that the pioneering spirit that underpins space exploration and travel continues to excite and inspire all sorts of individuals, from Richard Branson and Virgin Galactic all the way to the vast majority of Year 3 school children. Although personally, I do have to say that I got as close to space travel as I want just a couple of weeks ago when I got stuck at the very top of one of Australia's biggest roller coasters. It was me and the sun, and I had to be rescued. But of course, space travel is only one very small part of what space and space research is all about. And I know that programme participants will also be learning how space can help us here on Earth through things like remote sensing, GPS, environmental monitoring, something that is very pertinent for Australia at the moment with the bushfires, and of course satellite communications. The participants will also be looking at space policy and legal issues surrounding space before tackling a research project on space sustainability. So that all sounds extremely exciting, and we are very proud to be part of it. Indeed, UniSA has been involved as an active partner with the International Space University since the 1990s. And since then, our partnership has evolved to include things like the exchange of staff and students, the hosting of a space studies program in Adelaide in 2004 in collaboration with the other two South Australian universities, and as I've already mentioned, the launch of this successful summer program. I'd like to also take this opportunity to acknowledge and thank the Australian Government, which has provided invaluable support through the Space Policy Unit of the Department of Industry, Innovation, Science Research and Tertiary Education. I'd like to thank the programme's other major sponsors, the European Space Agency, the Secure World Foundation, the International Space Safety Foundation, the International Association for the Advancement of Space Safety, the Arthur C. Clarke Foundation, the Italian-Australian Community of South Australia, NewSat Limited, the Research School of Astronomy and Astrophysics at the Australian National University, the Robert A. and Virginia Heinlein Prize Trust, and the Warrigal Programme at the University of New South Wales. These supporters, along with many others who provide assistance in a whole myriad of forms, play a vital role in ensuring that this summer space programme delivers high-quality content as well as a memorable, dare I even say, out-of-this-world experience. I wish you all the very best for this year's programme, for the future, and stay cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Wright. It now gives me great pleasure to invite Professor Scott Madry to address you on behalf of the International Space University. Scott's a long-time ISU faculty member. He was present at the founding of this university 26 years ago, and he has been involved in most of the programs in a teaching capacity ever since. He's a specialist in space remote sensing, satellite navigation, geographic information systems, and environmental and cultural resource management and analysis. He was twice a Fulbright scholar, and he's conducted over 160 short courses and educational programs in over 35 countries around the world, and has been a principal investigator in a number of important research projects. In 2012, he was awarded the President's Volunteer Service Award by President Barack Obama for his work incorporating space technologies into disaster response for the GIS Corps and the Red Cross. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome my good friend, Scott Madry.
Thank you very much, Michael. Thank you all for coming. On behalf of the International Space University, I would like to extend our sincere appreciation for the very warm welcome that we have received in Adelaide this year. Next year, you don't have to give us quite as warm a welcome. Low 30s is fine. On behalf of the chairman of the board of ISU, Renee Osterlink, our president, Walter Peters, and our dean, Angie Buckley, I extend our greetings to you all. And really, I just want to express our very, very sincere appreciation to everyone here at UniSA in Adelaide, Mawson Lakes, South Australia, for this amazingly successful partnership that we have created. It's a very unique activity. We have two institutions, very different and very different scales in very different parts of the world, who have come together cooperatively, collaboratively to create something new. And it's been a great pleasure for us on our side to work together with the wonderful people that you have down here, the excellent facilities, to make this opportunity possible for our students. And we're very, very pleased with the partnership that we have. We look forward to bigger and better things in the future. Michael and I are always talking about new plans and ideas, and I think there's great possibility for further collaboration. ISU, for those two of you out here who maybe not know, is a very unusual institution. We are an international university solely dedicated to all aspects of space. And we're a very young institution. We were only founded 25 years ago by three very young students at the time who were not satisfied with the type of education that they were receiving. And they said, well, we're not going to get MIT or Harvard to change what they do, so we're going to start our own university. And most people laughed, as often happens. And yet here we are today on the other side of the world, benefiting from the courage and foresight and vision that these three very young people had. And so I think it's important that we look back as well as look forward in terms of how we got here. I know I'm personally very happy to be back. I enjoy coming here very much, and on behalf of the International Space University, I just want to say again, thank you very much for all the support and assistance that we receive, and I look forward to having a great session. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Our keynote speaker today is Dr. Andrew Thomas. Andrew, as most of you probably know, was born and educated in Adelaide, and in fact he commenced his engineering studies at Adelaide University the same year as I commenced my law studies. But in those days there was no interdisciplinary interaction at all, and so we didn't know each other even though we were on the same campus studying totally different disciplines. He went on, unlike me, to do a doctorate in engineering at the same university, and then he moved to the United States to pursue his career. And in 1995, he was selected as a payload commander for a mission on the STS-77 shuttle flight. And his first flight in space was in May 1996. He then trained after that at the Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center in Russia in preparation for a long duration flight on the Russian space station Mir, which he undertook for 130 days in 2001. 1998. He completed another mission, and your last flight was on STS-114, which was 177 days. So Andrew is a very experienced astronaut. He is still a member of the NASA astronaut team, and some of you may be aware his wife is also an astronaut, Dr. Shannon Walker, and she is the only Houston-born NASA astronaut, in spite of the fact that you all live and work in Houston. So that is quite remarkable. So it gives me very great pleasure to welcome Andrew to Adelaide once again, and to invite him to give the occasional address and launch the program.
Thank you, Michael, for those warm words of introduction. It was terrific to be here, actually, and see the parade of flags. I thought that was a great way to bring the students into the room. So I want to thank you all for the opportunity to come and talk with you today. I especially want to thank ISU and Michael Davis for inviting me to be here. I particularly want to thank the University of South Australia, though, for hosting the school. As someone who's had a long interest in spaceflight and who's come back to Adelaide many times, I've always been frustrated there hasn't been a lot of space-related activities in Adelaide. I'd like to see more, as I'm sure many people in this room probably would too. And I applaud UniSA for taking the initiative to host ISU. I think it's a great thing for the country, it's a great thing for the state, and a great thing for Adelaide. So thank you very much. So the question might come up is, why is something like ISU important? After all, these young people are going to be spending a lot of time and effort here studying, and what are they likely to achieve in doing that? What will the future hold for them? Why is this kind of work important at this juncture in history? I think you just have to look at what's recently happened in the way nations approach their space programs to understand why something like ISU is important. Space represents an extreme frontier, and sending humans or robotic spacecraft to any extreme frontier is fraught with risks and costs. In the past, national space programs did this by having a very centralized nationalistic program, usually enthusiastically supported by governments. And that was done because it represented the best the country had to offer. It showcased what the country could do. And in the 60s and 70s, that was certainly true. And it was that paradigm that led to Apollo and the great achievements of the human landings on the moon, and later the Salyut and Mir Russian space stations, which gave us long-term orbiting outposts. But those kinds of approaches in those days are really long gone. And despite the protests of die-hard enthusiasts, we're not going to see big centralized, monolithic, nationalistic space programs of that scale again. It simply won't happen. The political realities, the global financial situation are forcing all Western space agencies to consider what they're doing in space and why. They're being asked to be accountable to taxpayers who support them and to show good reason why we should be risking our lives and capital on these bold undertakings. Whereas in the past, setting footprints and a flag on a dusty planetary surface was considered an expectation of an advanced society and a measure of what a society could do, a people could do, social priorities have now changed, and communities are asking, why do this? What does this do for them? What is the payback? This is a very challenging time for spaceflight. Additionally, the high cost of space exploration is driving all the participants to the reality that they cannot go it alone. International partnerships have become the norm, not the exception. As an example, in the US where I live, a country that prides itself in its space program and really started the whole idea of space exploration, we now see that the space shuttle, its flagship vehicle, has been retired, and that leaves only the International Space Station, and the US is actually buying seats to fly to the space station from the Russians. And my wife, who Michael Davis mentioned earlier, flew 2 years ago on a Russian Soyuz rocket to the space station. The only reason we actually have the International Space Station is it got approved by Congress because it brought international participation and international partnerships to the table. But partnerships like that are not always easy, and they come at a price. They require pretty unique individuals to sustain those kinds of international partnerships. They require not just engineers like me who try to understand the physics of space exploration. In fact, people who do that are relatively easy to find, I would have to say. They require a different kind of people. They require people that have a passion for space and space exploration. But they also have an international perspective, an understanding of the critical issues within different countries, as well as an understanding of the technical issues. That's a fairly unique kind of person that you need to do this. And that's why an organization like ISU is so important, because it teaches these attributes. It teaches the cross-cultural aspects. It teaches not just the engineering of space, but the legal issues and how they fit into a geopolitical framework. And that is really important if the cause of human exploration of space is going to continue. So ISU is to be applauded for that, as each of you here, each participant, should also be applauded for committing the time and effort that you are to attend this program. You'll learn skills that will allow you to advance the cause of future space exploration in the future. So I wish you all every success in your endeavours here in the few weeks you have here, and enjoy your stay in Adelaide. I hope you will learn not just the curriculum that's being offered, but also make some long-lasting friendships and relationships with your colleagues that you might be able to put to use in the future as you network and develop plans for expanding human participation in space within your own countries and on a global scale. I wish you every success. And with that, I will close and officially announce the opening of the ISU Southern Hemisphere Summer Space School program is now open. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. It's always a long journey to the opening of a program. It takes approximately 11 months, and Scott and I have done it 3 times now, so we're very familiar with the annual cycle. But it's a wonderful feeling to be actually launched. Before we close, I'd like to acknowledge some of our distinguished guests who've come along to the ceremony today. Dr. Ian Gould, the Chancellor of the University of South Australia, Professor Philip Weinstein, the Dean of Research, Professor Patrick James, Associate Professor Brenton Danzy, who has just discovered that he's become a member of the Management Committee for the program. So we look forward very much to his contribution. I should explain that our Management Committee meetings take place in 3 continents, Australia, France, or 3 countries, Australia, France and the United States. And Scott is the person who gets the worst part of the deal, because the meetings are scheduled at either 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. in the morning for Scott, 6:30 in the evening for us, and it's usually 9 or 10 a.m. in France. And so everyone is amazed by Scott's ability to be coherent and intelligent at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. in the morning, having set the alarm to get up and to participate in our Management Committee meetings by Skype. But that's the way we operate. Dr. Adi James from University College London is also here, and Jeff Kasparian from the Institute of Telecommunications Research, and Dr. Ian Toohey from BAE Systems, and Mr. Robert DeBell, who is one of our consultants on crisis communications, and he'll be leading a workshop on that topic. As well as that, we have with us today a number of staff members and visiting lecturers, and I'd like to embarrass all of those people by asking them to stand up and identify themselves. So could all staff members and visiting lecturers please stand up? This is just a representative cross-section. There are 53 staff members and presenters in this program this year, and so it gives you an idea of the scale of the program and the range and the breadth of the topics that we cover in the 5 weeks. And we are extremely grateful to all of our staff members and visiting lecturers. Without you, we wouldn't have a program, and it's thanks to your volunteer efforts that the program is such a success. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much to parents and friends for coming along and supporting your sons and daughters and relatives. They're in for an exciting ride, and we invite you to join us again at the closing ceremony on Friday the 8th of February at Mawson Lakes. And unlike in the opening ceremony, at the closing ceremony, our graduating students will come in under the ISU flag, which is symbolic of the change that takes place in their outlook on their work and their profession and space in the 5 weeks. So with that, I will invite all of our guests to adjourn to the Kerry Packer Civic Gallery for drinks and hors d'oeuvres. And the gallery is on the 3rd floor, 2 floors below. So if you would all please leave now and go down to the Kerry Packer Civic Gallery. The students and the ISU alums are invited to stay for the pinning ceremony, which is a highly secret ritual that we're about to go through in the absence of any witnesses other than initiated ISU personnel. But thank you very much for coming.